the Nevernever and the Ways. We're going to talk about some of the theories we have about those subjects. But first, let me introduce the other hosts on this episode. Justin.
Hello.
We've got Andreas back. He's a mod of the Dresden Files subreddit.
Hi.
And Director Alex is with us.
Me.
Yeah, Director Alex sometimes has... Oh.
Can you hear me? I'm
yes.
here.
There we go.
Sorry, guys.
Director Alex might have some internet trouble. Sorry I wasn't on the last episode. I had some stuff to do on Halloween. And yeah, so you guys can see we're still trying to iron out our schedule. It's kind of going back and forth between 1 and 2 episodes a month. We're really trying hard to do 2 episodes, but we're all really busy, so hopefully we'll iron that out. Check us out at DresdenFilesPodcast.com. You can find all of what I'm about to say, all the links in case I missed something. Twitter.com/DresdenCast. Please follow us on Twitter. That's one of the best ways to reach us is Twitter. We have a couple of really dedicated listeners who have been going back and forth. It's been really great. Thank you for that on Twitter. We also have our iTunes page and RSS feed on the website. Subscribing and rating us and leaving a review on iTunes. I don't even think we have any ratings or reviews yet, so that would be really helpful. And also subscribing to us on YouTube. Even if you don't watch the show on YouTube, the show gets uploaded to YouTube automatically. And if you subscribe on there, we just got over 100 subscribers. If you subscribe on there, it really helps. So I don't think I missed anything. Also, before we get started with the show proper, we as a cast want to wish any possible French listeners or anyone with French family or friends or international listeners, anybody, stay safe. We're all our thoughts are with you as this tragedy has unfolded. Does anyone want to say anything about that really fast before we start? No? Andreas, you're kind of an international person.
Yeah, they're almost neighbors, but yeah, I mean, it's just a horrible thing. There's not much to say, I guess.
So we hope everybody's okay. But yeah, we got a good show today. Hopefully, if you're, hopefully you're listening, you'll enjoy. Let's get started. Director Alex has a couple of things to say first.
As general news, Patrick Rothfuss is doing his World Builders charity thing again for I don't know what time this is. And there's several Dresden Files geared rewards for them if you donate to the charity, and there's something called Tinker Packs, and I don't know what they are, but I've been told that they're very good of like Dresden File things going on, and you can help charity, so that'd be good. Also, the Dresden Files podcast is going to be doing some cross-promotion with a podcast called 42, and we're going to have some, switching hosts a little bit. So, now we go on to the core of this episode is the Nevernever and the Ways. So how do you guys think the ways work? How are they constructed and all of that bit?
Well, that is a very I think it's an interesting subject, and it's like one of the things I really enjoy about the Dresden Files is the rules of the magic, and I think overall Jim has been very consistent with his rules and his world building around how magic works. I'm not sure the ways are one of them because you get some very conflicting information, and I think we touched upon that a bit when we talked about this episode, back and forth, like some different theories, and like one of the things we're presented with is that it has to do with the emotional resonance. That's the most common one he brings up, the emotional resonance in the area. If it's a dark and dangerous place, it will take you to a dark and dangerous place in the Nevernever. If it's a happy place, it will take you to a happy place in the Nevernever. And that these emotional resonances in the area can change. But how does that explain Harry's mother's ability to predict the ways? Like it's explained that she has these these maps for the ways, all these passages and ways to get around. But how does she predict if the emotions of a place change? That's like one of my questions about the Nevernever.
So, I agree with a lot of what you said. I don't think that necessarily she was predicting anything. I think that I think she just was notating what she saw, and she'd gone through so much of it that it kind of seemed like she was predicting it. I really don't think she was
I
predicting
think
it.
it's actually brought up in the book somewhere. Some other character says that she got so good with the ways that she could even predict them.
Yeah, I'm thinking. Hearing you guys talk about it, though, it almost sounds like we're using, like, it's a fault in English as much as anything. Like, we're using the word predicting like you would predict, the train's going to show up on time. But maybe she's using prediction more in the sense that, because she knows the geography of an area and she's traveled it so well, she knows where, like, a bad place is going to lead to a good place or something like that, where they, like, hook together. Because Harry also talks about you could just get lost and devoured. That the ways are freaking scary, and even the she, director Alex has put in the chat. But when Leah talks about it, even the she don't barely have that kind of knowledge. Certainly of their own place, they're probably fine. But if they went somewhere else, they would have troubles getting around, I think. So
Yeah, from what I understand with the she, they have their very specific ways, going specific places close to their realm. Beyond that, they don't really know much about how, when, where.
Well, Leah is the one that said that Margaret was able to predict where things are going. It seems important that Leah, the she, said that Margaret could predict it, because, can't speak of false. So, seems like there's something there that Margaret is actually able to do. But is this energy that is connecting it, the emotional energy, is it something that is outside of the wizard that's casting the way spell, or is it something only in how they feel it? Because I think there's conflicting evidence in the books.
Yeah, it's brought up that Harry cannot open a way to a place that Cowl can because they are different people. While mostly except for that scenario where that is brought up, it's much more talked about that it's the feel of the place and the feel of the place where you arrive, and not who the person is. But it's also brought up with specific people in regards to Thomas, which we brought up in our things to talk about. That Thomas can open a place to the caves and the Nevernever, or knows where it is because he almost died there. But only those two instances, and I think is it in the same book? Is it brought up that it's specific people can open to specific places, whereas every other book it's talked about as at the place to a place, like the emotional resonance with this emotional resonance.
Yeah, it always seems.
Go ahead.
Okay, it always seems that there's like some form of emotional thing that is outside of the wizard. Like this emotional energy resonance is matching to another energy resonance, and it doesn't matter. Except in White Knight, Harry says that Cowl can't open a way to the same place because he doesn't think the same. But then how is everybody able to use the same junction points? Like from Chicago to Edinburgh, everyone's using the same ways. How are they able to do that if they're feeling different things when they're there?
Yeah, I think very much that it is established in the rules of the universe that it works. The most common way it works is the whole from energy to energy, place to place, and it will like these two as long as they have the same energy resonance, Harry or Lucio will go in this way and come out that place, and they know they will come out that place. And it's only in White Knight, I feel like it's mentioned about some people can only open to some places, and should you just disregard White Knight, or is it information we don't have yet that it's actually even more complex than that?
I don't think it was only in White Knight, right? I think they mention it about Demon Reach, no?
In Demon Reach, it is said that whatever is on the other side, you do not want to go there. You're not ready for that. I don't think anything else has been said about that.
But it could be that same idea where, even though no one wants to go to the other side, it could be different things they get to on the other side depending on who they are.
I don't think that's ever been mentioned.
Yeah. But I mean, what I'm seeing is kind of there are certain ways, like the one to Edinburgh, that are established, and they're kind of guarded and watched, and other ones that are guarded and watched. Um, so there must be some ways that are, like you're saying, are always there.
As long as their emotional resonance remains consistent, because I feel it's very clearly established. If a dark and dangerous place somehow got a renovation and became a happy place, it became a kindergarten full of happy, laughing children, it would no longer work.
But maybe not, because there might still be that residual energy of darkness, right? So it
I
might
think
work.
it's over time. Yeah, I wouldn't say like if we burn down the creepy old mansion tonight and put up a kindergarten tomorrow, I don't think that the path to the ways is going to change. But I do think that much more of the evidence weighs towards the fact that the locations are linked. And I don't think it's necessarily like you go in here and come out there. It's so much as that they're like laid on top of each other. That part of the universe and our part of reality are touching at that point. Because they're, that's where they're at. So, but yeah. Anyways, it wouldn't be instantaneous. So.
Plus, I think in any conversation about the ways of the Nevernever, you have to remember that we're talking about something that changes in ways, or that functions in ways that are beyond human perception. And beyond our way of thinking about things, right? So, yeah, I think instead of trying to say, well, one book had it one way and the other book had it another way, I think it's still possible for it to be both ways, because it could just anything could happen. There's really no rhyme or reason, right? There's no structure.
The contradiction.
I'm not disagreeing with you there, but I feel like in general that Jim has been very consistent with his rules about magic, and it is, I think, that the thing that happens in White Knight, which kind of sticks out in some other irregularities. I mean, in general, there's very few of those. So either it's intentional and there's stuff we don't know yet about how ways work, or it's just an oversight. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think it has more to do with the fact that we're probably missing a puzzle piece. That I think the hard and fast rule here that we could very easily say is that the ways are governed in some way by an emotional energy. If you break into a vault and open a way to another vault, if you go to a bad place and open a way to another place, but there are other things like the other side of Harry's house wasn't anything but a garden, so there are definitely other things. It's not necessarily always a one-to-one, but clearly, places with strong emotions, strong feelings, and ideas about them, because I don't know that anybody has a huge emotional attachment to a vault unless it's their billions and billions of dollars in said vaults, so, looking at Skin Game, for example, the idea of a place affects what is on the other side of the Nevernever and how they can open the way that way. And I think that's the consistency anyway.
I think Harry even brings up that they specifically engineered that bank vault to open to Hades's vault. Like they intentionally made it Hades's vault, and so that it would open a way there so that they could trick Nicodemus. But it has not much to do with emotional resonance there. That it's more of a, like you said, it's an idea of a place, which is also a bit inconsistent with what I feel like has been said in the other books.
Director Alex, you had something to say.
Well, Justin brought up Harry's apartment, and that on the other side it was just a garden. And then we kind of got the idea that Leah had manufactured the garden because she knew that's where his apartment was in the Nevernever. But in that whole sequence, Bob had said he never figured out what was on the other side of the Nevernever, even though he should have. But it's been pointed out to me by one of our very dedicated fans that in Grave Peril they actually did. They crossed into the Nevernever in order to get to Bianca's place, and it says, the Nevernever near my apartment looked like my apartment, only a bit cleaner and brighter. Deep philosophical statement about the spirituality of my little... Bob turned his eyelids towards the stairs leading out of the Nevernever version of my apartment. So it's like he walks into a copy of his apartment. And this is like a small oversight, maybe it is, but...
I cannot remember this at all.
Yeah, that doesn't sound familiar to me.
It didn't to me either, but the fan gave me at least, uh, excerpts out of the book. It's a very small part. Is they're just like trying to get into Bianca's place.
It's the third book, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
So, what pages or chapter or anything?
they didn't give me
Because
that.
so, I mean, in Grave Peril, it does have a lot to do with the Nevernever, and he certainly does cross over because he crosses over with Michael at some point, and they fight, crazy ghost lady in her hellish Chicago, but Agatha, whatever her face was. But I don't remember. And so there was that. There was the scene with the Hellhounds where he drops the aluminum, right? Sorry, Heckhounds,
Yes.
and then. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't remember anything other than that. That's crazy.
Okay.
I don't remember
So,
that all either. It's
it's after the party at Bianca's, and they go back to Harry's place to recover. Susan's been taken, and they have Lydia, and she's asleep. And then they get attacked by the Nightmare, and Thomas is there, and then Harry, Thomas, and Michael cross into Nevernever to get to Bianca's place through the Nevernever. And this is when that takes place, when they cross into the Nevernever, and then they'll run into Leah, and then Harry has to go on to Bianca's place.
I remember them crossing to the Nevernever to get to Bianca's place, and them running into Leah and the Hellhounds, and him cheating her with the poison and everything. But I don't remember him going into the Nevernever in his apartment and describing how it looks at all. And I think I would remember that. I'm almost positive I would remember that.
Guess we're gonna have to go reread them again. So.
Yeah, but that might be why I don't remember. I usually skip the first three when I reread or re-listen. I listen to them.
Oh God, let's stop talking about that, please. Also, we're going to continue the ranking eventually. Let's keep talking about this though.
Okay, I mean, that's just what do we make of this if it's an issue? And I don't remember this in Grave Peril either, but I'm pretty confident in this person and their sources. And then there's just kind of the question of how does Thomas get to exactly where he needs to in White Knight? Because Thomas can make the connections because of emotionally invested places that he's been in. He almost got killed in the deeps. That's how he can get there. But how does Harry open the way when Thomas is on the other side in exactly the right place? When 2 feet away, he'd have opened it into something completely different, or possibly.
I mean, the most reasonable explanation and easiest way to look at it is that the whole cave has the same emotional resonance and will open to the same general area in the Nevernever. And he was in that general area and could see when the way would be opened. He could see could see the rift forming, and then just go over there on the other side.
Yeah, so with Thomas, I can think of 2 times where he's opened a way. Basically, one is actually in Grave Peril. Talking about that again, he takes Michael out into a brothel, a house of sin, and then you have the instance with the deeps. But I thought I'm apparently not remembering the ways as detailed as we need for this discussion, but I thought that that Thomas opened the way into the Nevernever and into the deeps for them. I didn't think Harry opened it from his end.
No, I mean, Thomas opens the way for them to get into the Nevernever, the whole assault party, and for Thomas to get for Thomas and Michael to get into the Nevernever. It is said that, specifically said by Harry, that Thomas can open in places of power for his kind. Specifically, he's a wraith, so at places of lust, he has the power to open ways there. That's something white court vampires can do. So that's I think that's specifically said like that.
I mean, yes, Thomas can open the ways, and he knows where he will have to be in the deeps because he's emotionally invested there because he almost was killed, and that's how, or one of the ways that he can open the ways there. But the way I remember the sequence in White Knight is that Harry opened the way because otherwise Thomas would just open it and then get to what? They needed to be the ambush, so Harry needed to open it. And it's just very specific.
What happened.
So it's 2 feet away, and it would have been a completely different area, possibly. Although it could have just been a general area, and the deeps, as a larger area, could have been connected to wherever they were in the Nevernever.
I think that's how
Yeah.
we're supposed to look at it.
Yeah, I really think it was just a coincidence that it opened up in the right place. I think that Thomas was led right to the deeps, and that's it. That's it.
But I don't know. It's just like if Harry was standing 10 feet away in a different part of the same deeps, would it have worked?
But that's where we come back to the whole emotional resonance and opening ways, because Cowl opens a way to his own, almost his own private version of the Nevernever, where he has the super rules, and that is also in the cave. But it's only Cowl who can do that, is kind of what is being said in the book, if I'm not mistaken.
That's the way it came off to me, is that Harry specifically said that if he opened a way, it would be in a different area because he and Cowl think differently, even though the feel almost seems like it has to be objective and outside of the wizard casting it, which is why it's confusing and we're discussing it.
Yeah. I mean, when you think, like, the general rule, like we said before, is emotional resonance to a similar emotional resonance, and then it leads somewhere. Then, and then his mother, for example, figure out how to get almost anywhere by taking different places to, like, going one place in Nevernever to another place in the Nevernever, and in and out, like he does to get to Chichen Itza. And there, I feel like the rules are very clear. There's this emotional resonance. It leads to this place in the Nevernever, and that's that. That's how it works.
I also think, and maybe we can kind of move into this more general topic, the idea of how power affects the Nevernever, right? So a wizard's power is kind of on the much lower scale compared to, like, Map's power or the White God's power, the White God being the god from the Bible, or whatever deity, or it's said that all deities and pretty much anything you've ever imagined can be found inside the Nevernever, right? So that might explain kind of how part of why these things change in the way that they do. Go ahead, Andres.
A little side tangent, but still related to the Nevernever, and you bring up the White God. Do we think of the angels and the White God, is their realm in the Nevernever, or are they in a completely different, dimension off to themselves?
I mean, personally, I think it's the same Nevernever. What, Justin and Alex, what do you think? Director Alex. Justin.
I think it's some kind of pocket or some kind of other place. Like, it has to be there, but I don't know, because Mab has clearly had interactions with Uriel, so they have to connect somewhere, but I don't... In the Nevernever, it's just kind of assumed that it's just a giant place. It's not like the planes of D&D where there's very clearly, this is fire, this is water, this is darkness, whatever. The Nevernever at all, you could literally walk from one place to another. I mean, you wouldn't, because it's like walking the rest of the universe, I imagine. But I imagine it's in there somewhere.
What do you think, Alex? Director Alex.
I think maybe we need to distinguish what's the Nevernever and what's fairy, which fairy is the closest thing to our reality. So maybe a lot of what we have seen is not the full Nevernever, and we're just seeing the human-like looking parts with fairy, yeah. And so things get much more abstract and crazy.
I realized that the Nevernever is actually really, 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 really big, and there's more than just fairy. I personally get the impression that there's this whole Nevernever, and all the other gods belong to the realm of the Nevernever somewhere. I kind of get the impression that, the angels and the White God are beyond our reality, beyond the Nevernever, kind of like how the outsiders are beyond. Like, they're also beyond.
That's a good point. I'll let Justin and Alex go before I respond.
No, yeah, I mean that it makes sense. The outsiders, they're called outsiders because they're from outside of reality, outside of the Nevernever, even. So it could be. I mean, I'm a D&D player, so I always shape everything through that kind of lens. And Butcher even pulls a lot from there. But you could definitely say the outsiders are on one end, and but they kind of imply that the angels help protect, reality as we know it. So, I would assume they're probably in our envelope somewhere, but they could be something else as well.
In Cold Days, Harry says to Thomas that like all these other big ass baddies of like Greek gods, whatever, they're all of our reality, of our world. And the outsiders are a part of that, are part outside of it. To be clear, they just like the outsiders are still completely different, and all of the other gods and things are of our reality. So they're in the Nevernever somewhere.
Yeah, I'd like to think they're all in the same reality, the same Nevernever, because that's for me kind of what I really really like about the books. That's one of my favorite parts, the idea that God and Santa Claus could exist. Even if they're really far apart from each other, they exist in the same place. I really like that. You guys, what do you guys? I mean, just that general concept. Do you guys enjoy that, or think it's silly, or doesn't make sense?
I like it. I like that basically how he's made it is that all these supernatural things, both in of our world and outside our world, but they're all in our reality. And then there's also these completely incomprehensible Lovecraftian horrors outside our reality. I think that's very well. I think it's a good way he's built it up.
Also, before Director Alex and Justin, I think it's possible. I'm just going to lay this out there. I think it's possible that the Wizards are incorrect about the outsiders being outside of reality. No, because they have been able to move into other realities. I think that might just be a semantic thing. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I'm not sure what you mean. I think we also we get the impression from the fairies and other supernatural beings that outsiders are outside of what we know. They are unknown evil beings. So I don't feel like they're certainly not part of our side of the Nevernever, and they're not part of the other side. So the question is how do you define reality? Is everything in existence, including alternate realities and alternate timelines, part of our reality?
Yeah, so basically, where do we separate different universes from different realities, kind of?
Yeah, I gotta admit, I actually have a really tough time conceptualizing, the gates of reality and things like that. Go figure. You've got two almost opposing different kinds of ideas. So on one hand, the universe as we perceive it, at least through science, is basically this three-dimensional object. But in the Never, there's clearly an edge. There's clearly a wall. There are people on that wall protecting us against the horrors of, of insanity, basically, by comparison to our own stuff, right? So is there... there's clearly something past the wall where there's some kind of DMZ style area, or there's some kind of battleground there where we're bumping into the other universe? Or is that just there for our own sanity where we can just repel the invaders? Does that wall go all the way around Fairy and all the way around the universe? Because we conceive the universe as this three-dimensional object, but there's clearly a wall that we're defending. I have, it's really hard to comprehend fighting off insanity for some reason.
I think Mother Summer says that basically they have traveled, she transported them, but they have traveled to the other end of the Never, the complete opposite side where it ends. So Correct. It's far beyond just Fairy. It is the end of the Never.
Right. That's what I was going to say before, that we've actually gone a lot further than we think we have. We've pretty much gone all the way to the end of the end of our reality. But that's where I have a problem. Same as Justin. Is it really the end of our reality if you could look across into the other reality? That doesn't really make a lot of sense to me.
Another interesting thought is that, correct me if I'm wrong here, because I'm not entirely sure I remember this right, but Soulfire makes Harry's magic and spells more effective against outsiders? Yes? No?
not necessarily. I don't know. I don't remember if he used it on Sharkface or not because they mostly
Yes,
just
he did.
fought.
He did.
Did he? Okay,
In
so I mean,
briefly.
most of their battle was mental, though, from what I remember. And I know that it affects the Denarians more, but it's meant to be a force of creation, not really, useful for casting fire and that sort of thing. So
No, I think it's him being a Starborn that makes him able to affect outsiders.
Yeah, that's a complete fan theory with a little bit of support from the book so far, but I'm sure that will be clarified later. The whole Starborn thing, we don't know much about it yet.
Yeah. All right, Director Alex.
But you guys are talking about like trying to comprehend insanity and this like semantic quality of it, and it reminds me of Ghost Story in the fact that everything that Harry's seeing is just how he can perceive it when he's in between Chicago and he's in Bob's skull. It's in a way that he can understand it, and it's not actually how Bob actually sees things. Maybe you should guys read that book again and see if you can understand that one. But so we stop talking about Ghost Story and maybe move on. What do you guys think is on the other side of Demon Reach? Think seriously.
Whatever is on the other side is not something I would want to see. I mean, consider what Demon Reach is and how much evil energy is there. And if we go by the whole emotional resonance thing, whatever is on the other side's gotta be, I don't know, pretty bad.
Exactly. And Nicodemus said that he knows what's on the other side. Ooh, he's like big baddie, whatever. And like, I'm so excited to find out because it's got to be a big thing.
yeah, like the White God's hell. I mean, what?
Or some kind of
So
hell.
we've been to Hades. So what's worse than that right now? Like,
Well, that's the thing. Did you guys think Hades was that bad? It seemed kind of cool. It seemed kind of cool.
I mean,
kind of
Hades
cool
was actually very well represented for how he is in mythology. I mean, I haven't read the original mythology, but I have a pretty good concept of Greek mythology.
No. I mean by Hades, I mean that area, not him, not Hades.
Well,
the
we
guy.
didn't get to see, we were in the vault. There's like Hades is a whole area. It's very big. Among other things, the underworld also includes basically the Greek heaven, the Elysium Fields. So there's also nice things there. He's not a devil, and it's not necessarily only a bad place.
I mean, it's got. You guys think it's got to be some kind of prison, right?
Yeah, and I kind of have my own conspiracy about this. And maybe Andreas can help me because I know I've talked about Norse mythology before, but it kind of fits Hell as an Hel, the Norse mythology that's ruled over by a woman of the same name, and it's kind of like a prison. It's where the dead people go, and it's where the wolf is kept before the end of the world. And
there are, if I remember correctly, there are two things that can happen, or three things. You can go three places when you die in Nordic mythology. You can go to the halls of Valhalla if you die in battle, in glorious battle. You can go to the name is it Frey? The god of farming and life, kinda. If you can go to her realm as well, she has something for that. If I remember correctly, or you go to Hell. You go to the underworld, which is not a very nice place. And there's like lots of nasty things there. The wolf is not there, but yeah. Other than that,
there's a couple of different wolves in mythology. There's the Fenris wolf, and then there's Grimoire, or something. I can't remember how to pronounce it. There's a couple other places that you can go if you die. Like if you don't die in battle, if you die of old age, you go to a different place. If you die of virgin, you go to a different place, and whatever. But there's also the fact that Hell is at the base of Yggdrasil, and deep below Demon Reach is this tree root thing going on. It's like maybe there's too much of a connection there.
Yeah, I've been wondering about that tree branch tree thing. I don't know. That could be very. I don't know if that's something to do with Nordic mythology and Yggdrasil, but I mean it's something. I mean he's deliberately pointed it out. It's gonna have some sort of meaning, I assume.
Do we think it's possibly fairy related that's on the other side? since most things that are on the other side of the Nevernever, on the other side of our reality, is fairy.
It would be kind of hilarious with you bringing that up that it's actually Arctis Tor or something crazy like
Oh
that.
shit!
It'd be like you want to know why she responded to your summons so quickly in cold days? Because she was right fucking there waiting for the words. So
And she was able to pick Harry up after he died. Oh no, that wasn't. Was that Demon Reach? No.
The harbor
no.
in Chicago.
Yeah, but close. I
Close
mean,
enough, yeah.
comparative.
That would be hilarious if the entrance to Arctis Tor was right outside of Chicago. It would actually explain a lot, right? It would explain how Mav was able to stay in Chicago for a lot of that time, not just in the Ghost Story at the end, but she was also able to stay there in White Night, Summer Night, or no? What's Small Favor, right? With the Brothers Gruff, she makes it cold even though it's like springtime, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah, that is Small Favor.
Yeah.
So because that's Ivy and the Denarians, so
I don't know, Director Alex. What do you think?
I don't think Mab is on the other side of Demon Rage because Nicodemus says, like, I know what it is, and, like, he knows something that's so much more badass than
I mean,
Mab.
to be fair, Nicodemus could be full of shit.
Yeah, I guess, technically, but it seems like he's so much more afraid of something on the other side than Mab, which he thinks he's got the better of, or, she's his equal instead of someone he needs to be afraid of, which he was.
Wait, sorry, say that again. You think Mab is Nicodemus's equal?
I think he considers her an equal in power.
That's
Like
ridiculous.
They're contemporaries.
No, she's way more powerful than Nicodemus, right?
Well, yeah, but he doesn't think so.
Well,
exactly.
Yeah.
We know that.
that makes
but,
me even hate him even more.
Yeah, I can hear the hate welling up inside of you.
God
Release
damn.
your anger.
As a character. I love him.
No, and I think that he's good as a villain because you hate him so much. Like, that's what you want out of your villains. But,
Nope.
yeah, he certainly thinks that he's on her level, but, it's Mab. She knows better. We know better. Like, she would never be bested by him in a million years. There's no way.
And she still, like, had some form of Denarian attacked Arctis Tor, and then she took revenge on Nicodemus by making him kill his own daughter in Skin Game. She did what she thought was the most terrible thing to do to him by making him do that. And
No, those two things aren't related. So, because Nicodemus doesn't claim what happened in Arctis Tor, and he's just as surprised about it as anybody else. The whole thing in Skin Game was... That could be, but the whole thing in Skin Game is actually because of Small Favor and when they kidnapped Marcone. And,
there's that too.
No, like literally, I think that
She
one's the
says
tit
that.
for tat. So yeah.
Plus, the whole thing with Arctis Tor was Nemesis, and as far as we know,
He's not related to Nemesis, as far as we know.
even if he was, she would be punishing Nemesis and not Nicodemus. But she's punishing Nicodemus because of the whole thing with Marco.
Yeah, he breaks the Accords, and she takes offense to that because it's her Accords.
Yes, he broke the Accords, and she's getting revenge on him. She got revenge on him by making him kill his daughter, just like she had to kill her daughter after the Nemesis infection in Arctis Tor. There's the symmetry there that she is taking out on him, even though maybe it's more motivated by the breaking of the Accords.
Okay, I mean, when you bring up the symmetry part, it makes a little bit more sense. But yeah, it's pretty much for sure the whole Small Favor bits more so. I mean, I don't know. She's weird and evil, so maybe she does get off on the fact like, haha, you had to kill your daughter because, I'm going to have to do the same thing. But yeah, that makes sense because fairies.
I know what you're saying. It's true. She is weird and evil. Like, she's not good. But like the way when you think, I don't think about Mab as one of the bad guys. So she's our weird and evil. because she
Right.
protects us, and we work with her a lot and stuff in the books.
Yeah, I mean she's our she's our bulldog, so yeah, that's definitely. I just realized the line that I'm thinking of is actually
No.
an episode of Firefly where it's like, sure, she's a witch, but she's our witch, so cut her the hell down, you know. So
I was going to say she's our Darth Vader.
Wait. I finally watched Firefly. Finally. The whole thing. And I got to the last episode, and I threw a fucking fit because I couldn't believe it ended that way. I just wanted to say I knew Justin would be proud. Fucking finally watched Firefly. It was really good, but it was also really disappointing that it ended that way. Director Alex.
Yeah, Mav isn't a bad guy. She's just the scary one on our side. She's our Darth Vader. So is there any other places that we should consider? Like, what's on the other side? What is on the other side of Arctis Tor, or more specifically, like Mav's bedchamber? What the hell's there?
Oh, I don't want to be on the other side. Like, if that's some poor dude's apartment for some reason, holy.
I would think it's like a gulag or something on the other side. I don't know.
it could be that Arctis Tor actually, because of weirdness in the Nevernever, it actually connects to several places. But even though I was joking with it, sort of, or tongue in cheek, kind of suggesting that it might be Demon Reach, it seems more like some place like the Antarctic would make a lot of sense, because where else are you gonna get? Oh my God, it's fucking cold, and ogres. I don't know.
That's a good question.
I wonder if maybe the places where the wellspring is for winter isn't going to be connected to anywhere on the mortal world, because how could any place be like the wellspring of winter?
This brings me back to the rules of how ways work, because how do they specifically open a way to Chicago, like the main street from Arctis Tor? It's never explained. It's just like, we can do that. Portal. There.
It said she had it constructed, and then it just got done. He does describe it that it has to be something kind of hard to do, and something that Mab can do because she's just that awesome, but
they say it's
specifically.
It's actually almost impossible. There's only a few beings in the Nevernever that can do it, and Mab's one of them. It's
and
actually
Mab
really
is
hard to do.
can also do specific openings, because he does that at Chichen Itza.
Yeah, that needs explaining, because that doesn't seem like a way either. It doesn't go through the Nevernever. It's just like two parts of Mortal World. What the hell?
For which part? I must have missed that.
Odin at Chichen Itza, or Vatarung.
Oh yeah, that was cheating. So who knows? I mean, that's the fun thing. Like, in a sense, there are times where I'm like, oh my God, we're 15 books in, and how the hell is he going to cover everything? And then I'm like, every book is getting bigger, and he's just got so much more to go. So much more to explain. And honestly, who's to say that he ever explains all of it? I think we're going to get more with the ways. I think we're going to get more with magic. We're going to get more with Margaret Le Fay. We're going to get more with the fairies and a lot of big things like that. But it doesn't necessarily mean we ever get to know all of Vatarung's tricks or all of Ebenezer's tricks and things like that. And I mean, he's made such a huge universe. That's why I'm happy to hear that he's going to write more, and he's going to write different stories and things like that, because you'll chip away at that. But yeah, it's too big. I don't think, unless he sat down to write like an encyclopedia of all the things in his brain, and maybe he doesn't know. Maybe he's like, what would be cool if he like made a doorway out of magic? That would be cool. Maybe it's not a way, like, strictly speaking.
I mean, I think what you're saying with the whole world building and stuff, like how this goes back to some of all the interviews I've seen with Jim about he wanted to write high fantasy and like these massive plot storylines, and he ended up writing this really good urban fantasy book. And he's kind of cheated, because he just went and turned this urban fantasy book into this basically high fantasy book in terms of world building and everything. I mean, it's when you think about it, it's massive, and the whole 20 books and probably more now, he said, because he got some extra stuff in. But 20 some odd books plus an apocalyptic trilogy to finish it off. I mean, he basically tricked us into reading high fantasy without it being high fantasy.
One of the reasons that the book is awesome.
Definitely.
Right, and that's always been one of my favorite things. And when people are like, "Well, what's it like?" and I'm like, "Okay, well, do you like detective stories and do you like magic? Because pretty much these are the things that are happening." You know, he does bring in, and it's so seamless to me. Like some of his stuff, I'm like, "There's no fucking way that's real. Like, there's no way that's not made up or something like that." And then you'll go find it, and you're like, "Holy shit! He pulled this legend out of somewhere. He found this." Referenced. I can only find it in Wikipedia, but some of the shit that he knows or ties in is just crazy.
Did we want to correct that from before, Justin?
I don't know if it needed correcting so much, but yeah, I mean, we were being skeptical and kind of going back and forth about the book references earlier. So I actually found the reference. I think just found the chapter even 32 in Grave Peril. You got to go a little bit into it, but that's where they jump over from his apartment or near his apartment, I think is what it says, but. Then like it does say in like another paragraph that they left his apartment and then it looked a little different. So it's pretty ambiguous there. And then in White Knight, it was Harry opening the way in the deep. So I did find those references. Just pretty crazy. I didn't realize it was as inconsistent because the stuff that sticks out in my mind is, changes where he's talking or listening to the gem in his mother's notes and that sort of thing, and dealing with it in Turncoat when the High Council's coming through and all that stuff. So he knows exactly where they're going to be, and he has a normal mortal dude just watch them. As one of the great cons of the series. So. Those are the consistent things that I think about when I think about it, and what's on the other side of Demon Reach seems to have been there for a while, whatever it is. Not these little things that apparently I missed, so, yeah.
I mean, I don't remember that paragraph at all. Like, I know you just linked it here in the chat box, and I don't remember it at all. And if I'm honest about that specific part, since, in the book, Bob says, "You never was on the other side," I'm almost positive Jim forgot about this as well.
And all the beta readers who were supposed to catch those things. Yeah. Those things are going to happen, and when we catch it, that's cool. It's just, like, now we know a little bit more of what he was meaning to go with it instead of just this inconsistency that wasn't intentional.
And honestly, though, this might be too much retcon and too much, like he's going to come up with an answer after the fact of something that he legitimately overlooked. Let's just say if he did or not. But at book 3, he's quite afraid and distant of his fairy godmother. And by the time we get to, where it matters and changes, he's all but in Fairy's pocket at that point. And so, it could be that Leah did change it. It seems like powerful beings of the Nevernever are able to change it at some point. Leah's the third most powerful fairy on the winter side at the very least. So there's nothing to say that she didn't come burn down fake Chicago on the other side and put up a guard.
Exactly. The Nevernever is fluid and can change pretty much whenever. So I think putting so much stock into this kind of thing is kind of a waste of time. Does anyone disagree?
Are you saying we're wasting our time right now?
No.
Yeah. Let's stop the podcast now. Geez.
No, guys, come on. I think it's interesting to see your eyes. I'm saying that being nitpicky and pointing out that it's incorrect or
we're the fandom. That's what we do.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Nerd.
Fair enough.
If he wants to fix this, he needs to give us more books faster. Then we won't have time to nitpick.
Yeah.
So,
but
less
nitpicking.
Right. No, so the nitpicking though is sort of important because you got to keep in mind we're also reading about a wizard, all right? So, wizards aren't studying, I mean they're studying something that is fluid, but it's still a science to them. Whether it's, a hard proven science for us, magic does change. Wizards used to have like blue hair and shit and all that other stuff they talk about instead of their anti machinery field, their hexing and stuff like that. So the goalposts in magical studies moves. So there's certainly differences, but at the same time, like as far as Harry's concerned in his lifetime, these are the laws of magic, and they're not likely to change. And so it's important to study about that world. And the Nevernever, like I said, the way I see it, it's more that we're missing a piece and we don't fully understand the process more than it's inconsistent. And maybe that's just my take on it as a fan. So
That's a good point. Director Alex, was there anything else?
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, you're good, Andre.
Okay.
You're back. Is there any other place that we should speculate as to where it connects? Like, what the hell's on the other side of the Oval Office or whatever? Just, crazy speculation.
Oh wait, no, never mind. I was going to say obviously it's the Earl King, but we already know where he's at, so never mind. We know what's on the other side of that one.
I think it's hard to make these kinds of speculations because we don't exactly have the clearest picture of everything that could be in the Nevernever. We only really know about Fairy, right? So I'm not sure.
I kind of wanted to say Vadarong's office, but that's in the mortal world.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to think about.
Huh.
What do you think? Can you give us some examples, maybe, of things you might think?
Well, now I'm thinking of Vadarong in his office. I mean, the way it was constructed is supposed to match the way Valhalla is described in all of the old stories, but maybe there's something on the other side of it that's more like Valhalla, or
maybe
something.
Valhalla.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, maybe... So even though Monarch Security Buildings was built in the way to match the descriptions of Valhalla, maybe there is just more Valhalla on the other side, which is why it's its place of power. And maybe that's where the goat and all of the meat is.
Like, if they can build a vault that will go to Hades, I'm sure Vadarong can build his stronghold that will take him to his Nevernever stronghold, specifically.
Yeah.
And isn't his office actually in Scandinavia somewhere?
Yeah, it's they don't say where they end up, but they say they go through Finland at least or something before going through Oslo. They go through one way and then in some place, and then they come out again on the mortal plane, and that's his office. And they don't specifically say.
It's chapter 22, I think, in Cold Days, because I wrote a school paper on this. They start in Chicago, they go to Iceland, they walk a little bit on Iceland, they go through the Nevernever again, and then they find this giant tree that's got to be Yggdrasil. They cut into that, and they're in the basement of Monarch Securities. And then they go up really, really far, because way too many levels, and then they're at his office. So that's the trip.
It's not set where they end up, though, is it? Like where his office is located?
Oslo, Norway.
It is? Okay. It's in Oslo, Norway. We Danes get cheated all the time. Like, it doesn't matter who cares about us. It's always Norway.
But that was actually confusing to me because everything else I had read in the stories put Odin's place of power in Sweden, so I was confused why it was in Oslo in the first place.
I mean, Odin's place of power is Asgard, which is above all the realms here. So, in traditional mythology, we are Midgard, and he is in Asgard. That's where his place of power is. It's not on our Earth at all.
Yeah, well, it kind of seems like we're out discussing this now, so maybe we should move on. There was something suggested to me by the same fan that is apparently really awesome and knows his stuff. In Ghost Story, Harry kind of seems to circumvent a threshold by going through the ways to Nevernever. Is that something that should have happened, or is that breaking the rule?
I don't think this is the first time I've heard this brought up, and I thought Okay, so yes, we got two things. So it is very clearly a threshold because doesn't he need to get brought in with the strike team, right, at some point? But at the other end, like I thought it was a warehouse, so I'm not sure why it has a threshold in the first place. But yeah, I've seen that kind of inconsistency get
It
brought up
is.
before.
It does specifically have a threshold. One, because people, even though they're insane, are living there. But also, two, it is set in the book it has a threshold because he is like, can you invite my special friend in or something? Can he come in with between Karen and one of the crazy guys? For to Harry to get in again because he ended up on the outside somehow. I can't really recall it exactly. But yeah, he does cheat his way around the threshold. And I'm not sure he should if he can do that per the rules.
Yeah, well, so maybe what we're thinking about is a Harry cheated instead of a corpse taker cheated, right? Because ultimately it's her stronghold. She had her bastion to the Nevernever. Maybe she had a portal open more or less to kind of let it in, so that she could get at some kind of necromantic energies more easily or something like that. She probably left the door open. That's why she had the bunkers there in the first place.
But just because you have a door open doesn't mean you're inviting the vampire in. So just having the door open, why does that let him circumvent the threshold?
It's not a door in the traditional sense, though. We're talking about the Nevernever. He doesn't need permission to come in at that point. So the way I'm envisioning a sort of four-dimensional problem here. So I mean, without melting faces and that sort of thing. Like, so you've got your house, right? And you've got gates and you've got the door locked and everything like that. But if you've got a 150-foot tunnel going out the back side that just goes into the bushes, nobody needs permission to come into your house. And so that's why she put the guards and the fences there, is because it doesn't have a lock on it per se. This is just something where things could come in, and she knew that, and that's why she put Normandy there instead of worrying about a threshold and that sort of thing. Maybe it was so that she could get in and out because it's not her threshold, right? She's also a ghost, so she's bound by the same rules as well.
Yeah, but if they consider her family, just like Sir Stewart is considered family with Mortimer, maybe she's allowed in because of that and all the mental crap that she did to them. But
is it ever stated that anywhere that threshold applies to exits and entrances from the Nevernever?
I don't know. That's why we're discussing it.
That's what I was thinking. Like, I can't remember that ever being said. So maybe it's just not a loophole. It's just that it's not been said, but the Nevernever can bypass thresholds for any being.
God, that's really weird, though. I mean, why? Why
Well,
would the Nevernever be able to do that?
You're not necessarily bypassing a threshold, right? You're entering in one place and leaving in another place that happens to be behind that threshold. We see that. I don't know if you guys are talking about in Ghost Story, right? Or not in Ghost Story. Sorry, we see in Changes that there's an opening right outside of Harry's backyard. And did you guys talk about this already? And Leah puts a monster there to defend against Harry's house, and that's why no one's ever come through the Nevernever.
That's from inside his house.
Yeah. So that's beyond the threshold. The threshold's just it's like if you dug if thresholds only expanded through the actual door, and you could dig a hole under the door and come up out on the other side.
Right. And we've talked about it like 4 times. That's a great point. That Leah obviously was concerned about that at some point, so she put something there. Is it because that was the only way to get in, or was it to discourage? I don't know. But at this point in time, with those 2 pieces of evidence, I would say probably that something with sufficient power, if it wanted to get at you, it could just tunnel in through the Nevernever and bypass your threshold. And that's scary as shit, and it probably should scare you. So maybe it'll come up.
Thinking about ghosts and the Nevernever, that he goes into the Nevernever to get past the security as a ghost. But in one of the original books, like, the Nevernever is what they have to go to even find Agatha. how does that work? When are ghosts in our reality? When are they in the Nevernever? That's also very, very loose.
It a little bit, and it was early enough that maybe you didn't have it fully fleshed out at the time. But I thought it was specifically discussed that she was powerful enough to have her own pocket of the Nevernever, and that's why when they crossed over from the hospital, like there was the burning Chicago and all that stuff, is that was like her realm, and certainly they discussed the fact that the line between the Nevernever and our reality was blurring, and it was being broken down, and that's why the nightmare was such a big deal, and the ghosts, and because they talk about how like it's very Ghostbusters, right? Like this, it opens up in the middle of action and they're running back and forth. This isn't the first ghost that they fought. That's why he had the ghost dust readily available and things like that. Michael and him have been doing this for a little while, and so they've run into other ghosts, but it seemed like she was powerful enough to have her little pocket of the Nevernever.
Yeah, she had her own domain, but I don't know how much and all of that works. Like, apparently wizards can create domains when they have really strong dreams because they're spirits in the Nevernever or something like that, and that's where the nightmare attacked Harry in Grave Peril. So it seems like Corpse Taker did the same thing, just on a larger scale with her Normandy around the warehouse. But I'm just still, like, with Leah building a garden of protection around Harry's apartment, that could stop things like mortals, like other wizards, creating a way to his apartment, because the caterpillars will kill them too. And rather than like a spiritual being being able to do it as well. There's a difference. You get it?
But no, mortal beings have an even better chance of getting across the threshold. Right? A threshold only prevents non-mortal or magical beings from going across the threshold. Harry can enter whatever threshold he wants.
Hostile magical beings.
Right. He just leaves his power at the door, basically.
Yeah.
Or even a lot of it, though, because, taking that example, the Toad Demon, for example, is able to push through the threshold. He's able to project past the threshold, things like that. So it's not a hard and fast rule. And, for example, like the one that really is going to keep me up at night and keeps popping into my brain is Cat Sith, right? So Cat Sith pops over to the garden. He's sneaky little fucker. He gets past the sentries. He decides that he's going to show up in Dresden's bedroom. Sure, he left all his tricks and his magic and whatever behind, but he's still like a 200-pound cat. And that's all he needs. And so, I'm sure...
The idea I got from that was he's not allowed to attack Harry, and if he has any bad intentions at all, then whatever that force of the threshold is would drive him out. That's what I
got a similar idea from that, like that if they can only enter with good intentions. If their intentions change, then they will be forced out. Is the impression I got without it being said.
Could be, it could be wrong.
Well, no, I agree with you.
Well, that's definitely what it's intended for. That's what it's supposed to do.
Very good intentions. Like when he's found. Yeah.
Well, specifically though, like we see the Toad Demon is able to cross the threshold. Like that's very clearly something that's happening in Grave Peril. And Harry talks about how stronger thresholds matter, and that's why they always meet at Karen's house, is because she has the strongest threshold out of anybody. So.
All right.
Okay.
These were all really good points, and we're coming to an hour now, and I wanted to address a fan's question. So we're going to give that a little bit of time. How many Harry Potter characters do you think received the Doom of Damocles? Basically all of them. That's the tweet.
Harry Dresden?
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter.
So we're kind of crossing over, but it still has to do with the Dresden Files.
So if we apply the rules of the Dresden Files universe to the Harry Potter universe, is what you mean?
Correct.
And how many of them would be placed under the Doom of Damocles by the Wizarding Council, assuming they are pardoned and not just killed for doing whatever?
Sure.
Clearly Harry Potter would have been killed as a baby because he killed Voldemort, right?
He didn't kill Voldemort. Voldemort killed himself.
Right.
His
It was
mother,
self-defense.
his mother
Oh
magic.
yeah, it's self-defense. This baby doesn't know what he's doing. He's dangerous.
I mean, that would be an argument Morgan would make. I mean, that baby killed powerful wizard. We don't know what it's going to become. Let's just like stab it now. I don't know. That's most of them.
Oh, you guys couldn't hear what I was saying. Harry Potter as a baby never casted any magic.
No, his mother did.
Well, his mother... No, it was a protection laid upon him by his mother's death. It's kind of like a mechanic. It's not really an active thing that happens. It's like a ward.
I got the impression that it, like,
Oh yeah, that's an excuse.
that it's
it is a spell, but
that she has to consciously.
No, that's not how it worked. No, it was the sacrifice that caused the magic to the protection to enable. Basically, it was like the circumstances. It was kind of like how Harry was born with special powers because of the circumstances. Same thing.
I've read the Harry Potter books a lot.
Me too.
Not so much recently, but let's see. Let's go through the rule, like the rules. That's all the rules of the White Council that can get you placed under the Doom of Damocles. And I'll try and match them up. Like so, I can't remember the rules. Can someone read them up, and I'll see if I can put a name on them.
Wait, hold on. Justin's never read Harry Potter.
It's
Are you
true.
kidding me?
It's absolutely true, and I've refused to read them, and
What?
only possibly the birth of my child is going to change that at some point.
God.
How old are you, Justin?
I'm pushing 30, so
You're a bit old, not much older than me. I mean, that was like what got me into reading. What got most of my generation into reading books is the Harry Potter books.
yeah. So I was a little. Well, let's see. I was in high school. I was a sophomore, I think. I was helping in the library, and after 100 kids came in to ask to, borrow the books from the library, and we didn't have them, and I'd never friggin' heard of them. I had this thing against fads and that sort of thing. And
I'm a rebel. I'm not going to do it. Everyone else is doing it.
Exactly. And so it got reinforced when I went to one of the middle book launch parties. I accidentally went to like Walmart at 11 on one of the launch nights, and it was like, so somebody want to tell me what a 50-year-old and a 4-year-old have in common here for why they should be up at midnight trying to buy a book? So the whole thing's been weird. I love the movies. I'm not trying to rag on your fandom or anything. I'm just saying at the time it made sense.
Compared to the books, and you need to read them because they're not just because like of the fandom, but because they're like it's like every generation has that hero archetype story, and this is our generation's story. So,
and I skipped it, and I read Harry Dresden instead. I'm good.
Did they come out? They didn't come out at the same time.
No.
Well, Justin, you can give your baby Harry Potter and then graduate Harry Dresden when you're done with that.
Yeah.
To be about the right age.
I think that's the plan, actually. So I imagine that's about the time that it'll happen. I mean, at some point we're going to get him into, the Lord of the Rings and all the, it's going to happen at some point. But to get us on track, otherwise we're going to spend another hour talking about how I don't read the books. So the Doom of Damocles, I just wanted to jump in there and say, mostly I thought that the reason why Harry was under the Doom is because nobody believed that he would have been able to beat Demorne in a fair fight. And so if we take that consideration, that probably none of the kids would be under the Doom of Damocles, or all of them, because they're very clearly being hunted by the Death Eaters and Voldemort. But then from the government's perspective, he doesn't exist. So it depends on which angle you're looking at it. So I would say probably all of them are under the Doom of Damocles because, the government just...
No, well, I think the idea is the Ministry and the White Council are separate, and it's the White Council that's giving the Doom of Damocles, not the Ministry. So I think pretty much every wizard in the world on the Harry Potter side would have been given Doom of Damocles because of the way they treat magic. It's so different than the way the White Council treats magic. Like, the Ministry is way looser with... Like, there's a scene in the third book, they showed it in the movie too, where Harry blows up his aunt by accident, he would have probably
Not blows up but
Yeah.
blows her up like a balloon.
makes her increase in size until she floats. I think he definitely would have been executed for that. Straight up.
I mean, what rule has he broken when he does that?
He's technically violating her will by causing her to rise.
No.
Continues. She would have died if the ministry hadn't stopped.
Yes, you could. If it had not been stopped, then she would have died, and it would have been magic. That I agree with that, but not the will part, because he's not affecting the will.
It's the second law of magic. The law prohibits the shape-shifting of other beings.
That's another thing. And there's like rules about it in Harry Potter, but they're kind of broken willy-nilly.
Yeah, they're like, it's more like they're less strict about it. It's kind of like, like, okay, you break you break a rule, you get a slap on the wrist instead of a head chopped off.
And they don't execute anyone, and the Ministry of Magic doesn't execute anyone. It's only.
I don't think that's entirely true.
They've used the
the Dementor's kiss and stuff, which is pretty much worse than killing and all sorts of things.
It's basically killing.
But I think that's only used if they're like not able to be imprisoned, basically.
Also, affecting the will of others is something that happens quite a lot, like love potions and etc.
Wait, right, Director Alex? Though?
Even for like the World Cup and stuff that they did with all the affecting memory, they're just like, oh yeah, this person's kind of having to freak out. We just fix his memory every 20 minutes or so, and whatever.
No induced potions are breaking the laws of magic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
right. Yeah, don't forget that in Harry Potter, the dude totally wiped everybody's memory left and right all the damn time. So yeah.
No, like it's a really casual thing in that universe to just.
The time reverser, traveling through time.
Yeah. Definitely.
So yeah, pretty much every character would have been either received the Doom of Damocles or been killed. I think that would be a really interesting topic, like if it was the Dresden universe versus the Harry Potter universe, and they fought each other. Who would win? I don't know. I think a lot of people
less backfight. Like I think Harry Potter universe will win because there's less. Like there's no they don't run out of energy, for example, as far as we know. In terms of they can just go like killing spell, and they just keep doing that.
Yeah, a lot of people say that it would just on pure mechanics, it would be the Potter universe.
Mm-hmm.
Justin's like.
No, it's just funny because they've got two different styles of magic. So like Andrea said, it's no comparison. Like the only time you see anybody break a sweat is during the during the siege of Hogwarts, and then you see it definitely take on like a war zone type of feel, and people are getting blown up, and Harry's actually arm wrestling with what's his nuts, Voldemort, the whole time. But it's not like they get tired.
Wrestling? So. What? He's arm wrestling?
Oh, come on, dude. They were doing the classic, we don't know what magical battles look like, so we're going to have your energy and my energy touch, and we're going to push on that until
that's
one
what
of the other
happens
one
in the
explodes.
movie. That's not at all what happens in the book. That's what happens in the movie. It's not what happens.
What happened in the book. Book 4, my God.
And there's a lot... What?
It does happen in book 4.
But but that's not the same.
Yeah, they throw a spell at each other, and then the wands touch, and they do their weird, creepy energy shit, and then dead people come out, and
that's part of the mechanics of the spell, and not just like a shortcut.
It's an interaction of two wands sharing the same core.
Anyway.
Which could happen to any wands that are sharing the same core.
No, I mean, no. It happens to ones that are twins of each other. They're sharing. When they say the same core, they mean the same, like the same unicorn or the same dragon.
It's the same dragon. It's the same bird. Whatever. It's the same.
It's super rare.
Origin of whatever it's inside the wand.
God, Justin, fucking read the books. Anyway, all right. I think we gotta end it here. Was there anything else, Director Alex? Anyone?
No, I don't think so.
Didn't you want to bring up some charity?
We did in the beginning.
You did? Okay, I completely forgot we talked about so much.
All right. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Like I said in the beginning, you can check out DresdenFilesPodcast.com for all the info. Hopefully, I'll be getting the audio up today. And like I also said, we're going to continue the ranking eventually. We might change up the format slightly, so it's a little bit easier to finish the ranking. If you please, we love feedback. Get at us on Twitter. That's probably the best place to reach us. Dresden Files email, DresdenFilesPodcast@gmail.com, and just lots of feedback, and it'll really help us with the show. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.